This is an important message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness for Jamaican residents. As of July 1, 2020, the government of Jamaica has modified its entry protocols for all arriving passengers. Jamaican residents are required to register their entry at jamcovid19.moh.gov.jm/immigration. All passengers will be required to show proof of travel authorization upon check-in and prior to boarding flights. Health screening. Upon arrival, all passengers will be subject to health screening and risk assessment by the Jamaican health authorities. The government of Jamaica has modified its risk-based protocols that will determine testing and quarantine requirements for all arriving passengers. Testing protocols change periodically, and as such, at the airport, you may be required for testing. All Jamaican nationals and non-nationals will be subject to health screening and risk assessment upon arrival. All residents demonstrating COVID-19 symptoms on arrival will be isolated and tested. Residents without symptoms will be allowed to go home and remain for 14 days under quarantine. Persons who become symptomatic during quarantine will be tested. Residents with a positive COVID-19 test will be isolated immediately. Residents with a negative COVID-19 test are to complete the 14-day quarantine beginning from the date of entry to Jamaica. All residents may be required to do a test after 14 days from their date of arrival. General notice, quarantine orders and restrictive measures. Quarantine for returning residents means that persons are required to remain at home for a period of 14 days. Persons under this measure will also be required to work from home for the same period. Persons are not allowed to attend funerals, weddings and parties, or any other gathering during the 14 days. Please be reminded that quarantine is intended to restrict movement and may be at home, hotel, or a government facility as determined by the health authorities. Persons under quarantine cannot leave their quarantine location except with permission from the health authorities. Isolation is intended to separate persons who have tested positive for COVID-19 or are suspected to be positive from other persons. This may be at home or a government facility as determined by the health authorities. Monitoring during quarantine or isolation. Persons who are quarantined or placed in isolation at their home, hotel, or intended address will be monitored electronically by the health authorities to ensure that they do not leave their designated quarantine or isolation location. Please take the necessary steps in keeping with the new COVID-19 travel protocols. COVID-19 is not over. Please protect yourself while protecting others.